How can we keep robots under control? This is the University of the Netherlands.
Thank you. Hi there. How are you tonight? Good? All right, let's get straight to the point. Our future is full of robots and artificial intelligence. Intelligent systems like the ones we have on our smartphone will be everywhere. Will assess our health, will make financial transactions, will take strategic decisions and actions in warfare, will drive our cars, and so on. Now, I'm Italian and we like to vote every other week, basically. So I would like to make an instant poll with you tonight. When you think about a future scenario in which robots and artificial intelligence are everywhere, what comes to your mind first? You have two options. First option, robots will match our desires and needs, will make us happier, healthier, richer, smarter, will be beneficial for everybody. Let's call this the robot dream party. Option two, robots will turn against us. They will damage us. They will enslave us. They will kill us. Let's call this the robot doom party. Okay, let's vote. Who is for the robot dream party? Wow, that's a lot. Who is for the robot doom party? Okay, cool. Partly there's a vast majority for the dream party, but some important representatives of the doom party too. So there is disagreement here. And no surprise, many scenarios are still possible here. And what will make the difference is whether we will be able to control the direction of technological development in the future. So that's why the topic of tonight's lecture is, can we keep robots and AI under control? Before answering this question, let's try to make clear very briefly what we talk about when we talk about AI and robots. So quite simply, AI is any computer system who is able to analyze and process data coming from different sources and doing a decision-making process and giving an output. Example, a voice assistant like Siri. You ask them a question, they understand your voice, interpret your question, make a deliberation about what a good answer would be, and try to give you an answer that kind of makes sense. A robot is AI plus arm and legs or wheels, wings. So something that can move into the physical space. So back to our elections. The few people from the Doom Party, I think they have a point here. There are a lot of science fiction films in which robots consciously turn against humanity. They try to take over. And for the record, the best of this film is by far Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. No, sorry, this is not open for voting. I don't think this is going to happen in this way. But robots may get out of control and even taking over in more subtle ways, right? Less obvious ways. So I will try to present 4 ways in which robots can actually go out of control and taking over. The first way is the one in which robots may create a big shift of power in favor of a small handful of people, companies, or states. Quite simply, those who will control data and algorithms will have a surprisingly effective way to constrain and manipulate the behavior of other people. Just think of the Cambridge Analytica scandal. This is a vivid representation of how, by just installing a relatively innocuous app on your Facebook, you end up contributing to creating a massive pool of personal data that then can be used by companies or political agencies, even to influence and determine the result of political elections. So here is not really robots getting totally out of control, but getting under the control of a few people who are not controlled by the majority of people, of citizens, right? The second way in which robots can taking control is that by becoming more and more intelligent, robots and AI can end up replacing humans at work in an unprecedented way. So it's the first time in history in which the concern about technological unemployment, which means robots destroying more jobs than they can create, has become reasonable. This can happen this time. Why? Because now robots can not only do repetitive physical work in constrained environments like production in factories, now robots can think. So they can replace doctors lawyers, accountants, managers, you name it. Any mental work can, in principle, be replaced by intelligent systems. So again, this is not robot turning against humanity, but it's at least robots potentially taking away meaning from the lives of many people. Okay, here's a scenario that gets as close as it gets to the science fiction. Robots may become so complex, AI in particular, may become so obscure and complex, the mechanisms through which AI work, that even the designers of the systems may not be able anymore to predict and explain the behavior of the system. Here's a very daily example of something that can happen to you and me tomorrow. So you apply for a job, you apply for a loan, a mortgage at a bank, and your application is rejected. You are not happy, you go there and say, hey, what's up? Why is my application rejected? And the person you ask replies to you, sorry, I have no idea. The system just analyzed your profile, your data, and it decided that your application is not eligible, which is kind of annoying, right? And the reason why it's annoying is that in liberal democracy, we have something called accountability, and AI may create what has been called an accountability gap. So basically, in a liberal democracy, we are not supposed to just trust the systems, the decision makers, the power. We are supposed to be able to understand the reasoning through which the decision makers have decided something that will affect our life. We need to be able to check that we haven't been discriminated, that the process has been fair, etc. Fourth, now let's assume that we're not just talking about AI, but we're talking about robots, stuff that can physically hit you. Let's say a computer-driven car. Unfortunately, here we don't have to make up a story because we have a tragic real one. As you probably remember, in 2018 in Arizona, a computer-driven car owned by Uber ran over and killed a pedestrian who was crossing the road outside the pedestrian crossing. The sensors didn't spot the pedestrian in the dark, and the human operator on board of the car was doing something else, was not checking the system. So nobody prevented this crash, and the lady unfortunately died. Now, here's the interesting question is, who's to blame for the death of this lady? And no matter how much we can have a clear-cut legal answer to that, the moral question is far from straightforward. The company may blame the human operator on board for not complying with her responsibility of keeping her eyes on the system, but the human operator on board may blame the company for not giving her proper training and putting a tool in her hands which she was not psychologically able to deal with. And we all may reasonably blame the regulator for allowing a not safe system on the public road in the first place. So here we have a good example of what in the literature is called the problem of the responsibility gap. So we may end up having a lot of accidents for which nobody individually feels responsible and takes the moral responsibility for it. And this is going to be a problem because if this becomes the rule, we may end up having situations in which nobody individually is taking the responsibility to protect the safety of the public. Okay, now you may wonder why someone like me, who has just studied philosophy all the way, all his life, apart from the football thing, should talk about data, robot, employment, public administration, and so on. You may think this is stuff for scientists, engineers, economists, politicians. The fact is that actually these are new challenges, new problems for which no individual discipline has a clear-cut answer. And we need to connect different disciplines and different concepts in order to come up with a meaningful answer to this problem. And if there is something that philosophy still can do nowadays, even in present-day society in 2020, is precisely doing this conceptual work of finding out what are the relevant concepts in different disciplines that we may need and connect in order to make sense of what's happening. Even more, philosophy may be a great help when it comes to coming up with new ideas, new concepts, not only to understand what's going on, but to change it if we don't like it. And here we come to you guys, voters of the Robot Dream Party, the vast majority in this room, apparently. You guys, you know, we need to get clear about a couple of concepts if you really want to realize your utopia, or at least to limit the impact of the doom scenario. We first need to agree on a major methodological point. You know, there is this common say who goes like this: technological products are not good or bad. It's up to the user to use it properly. It's up to the regulator to see to it that technological products go in the interest of society. Now, I think this is not true, especially in relation to digital technologies. Let's go back to the example of the data online. Given the way the system is designed, we as users do not have a real choice to decide to not give our data if we want to use certain services. And we know from newspapers that even the most powerful regulators, let's say the government of the United States or the European Union, have proven to be slightly, relatively powerless in trying to change the effects of this design. So what this shows is that design matters. And the reason why design matters is that design choices embed, implicitly or explicitly, certain principles, norms, interests. And once these principles, norms, interests are embedded into the technology and embedded in a political and economic system that support this technology, it may become very difficult for users and regulators to counterbalance these choices. Which means that as a society, we should take responsibility now for future technology, for future AI and robotics, not just waiting for it to happen, because at that point, it will be too late again. The second concept we need to work on is the concept of control. We need a new concept of control if we want to make sense of control over robots and AI. So a common idea of control in engineering and in common sense is one according to which control happens when a certain technological system responds to the action of a certain user. So you have your smartphone in your hand, you sit behind the steering wheel of your car, so you think you're controlling them. But this is a very shallow notion of control. We need a more complex notion of control if you really want to have some sort of meaningful control over technology. In order to have a meaningful form of control over technology, we need at least three things. First, we need the technology to respond not only to the behavior of the user, but also to her long-term intention, deeper needs. We want cars that do not invite us to do dangerous stuff. We want websites and apps that do not trick us into accept terms and conditions that are not favorable to us. Second, we want the system to respond not only to the values, interests of the users, but also to the rights and interests of those who will be affected by the technology. For instance, we want military drones that not only respond to the interests of the governments and the soldiers who deploy them, but who also systematically respond to the interests and the rights of the civilians. Third, we want technological systems that not only respond to the values and interests and worldviews of the companies who produce and design the systems, but that also embody and respond to broader societal values. For instance, we want robots and AI that not only allow companies to cut on the cost of human work, but also enable human workers and human persons more generally to remain engaged in meaningful activities. You know, we live in an interesting time in which science and technology is pressing us to come back to old and grand and very deep philosophical questions. Are we really free? What can we do to remain in control of our lives? That's why in this lecture I've tried to answer the question, can we keep robots under control? And my answer has been that yes, we can, but it's not going to be easy. And we need to start now, because this is not only a technical problem, it's also a political, legal, societal problem. And so we need certainly the best efforts of scientists, engineers, but also lawyers, policymakers. And we also need good concepts to coordinate our efforts to understand what's going on and to change it. And this is where even good old philosophy may still be of some help. Thank you very much.